Chapter 219 scans are here, and JJK has done it again. Not only do we get to see Yorozu's domain expansion this chapter, but we also get to see Heian era Sukuna, along with the reasoning behind him summoning Maharaga's will back in chapter 217. Huge shout out to TCB Scans for the chapter, and with that, the chapter starts in the Heian era, and apparently it is the day of the harvest ritual, and we see two men discussing the fact that they have to pray to Sukuna for the harvest, talking about how the Celestial Squad and the 5 Void Generals were actually killed by Sukuna. The men then talk about how there was someone from Aizu who was appointed to the capital, and that she showed herself to be a barbarian. Okay, so they're obviously talking about Yorozu here, and it's kind of interesting. I thought Yorozu was the one who took down the 5 Void Generals, but I actually went back and read chapter 218, and it turns out that she had actually defeated a group led by the 5 Void Generals, so I guess I was a little mistaken. But wow guys, so apparently Sukuna was just going around, you know, just doing whatever he wanted, and apparently, you know, they're gonna stand his good side, you know, regardless of who he kills. It's a lot more beneficial to just not make him mad. So yeah, that's pretty interesting, even though I'm not surprised. Anyway, back to the chapter. We then see Yorozu eating snacks, and that's when someone comes in her room to inform her that today is the harvest ritual, and they ask her to put clothes on, which I guess that's a thing for Yorozu. She doesn't wear clothes. Anyways, we can see that Yorozu's not really concerned about the ritual. Nonetheless, she does want snacks though, so she goes anyway, and as soon as she steps on the ritual grounds, that is when she makes eye contact with full form Sukuna. Okay, so apparently this is the first time Yorozu is meeting Sukuna. So yeah, I thought they had a relationship where like they knew each other in the Heian era, you know, but this is the first time meeting. So yeah, Yorozu is definitely down bad, especially for what happens later. And I don't know if it's just me, but Sukuna looks absolutely massive. Like he looks like he's about 7 feet. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but yeah, he looks huge. Moving on in the chapter, we then see Yorozu makes a beeline towards Sukuna, hugging him, and Yorame is just not having it. You know, she immediately uses the ice curse technique to, like, you know, make distance between them. We then see Yorozu declaring that from that day forward, she'll be the one standing by his side. But it's already too late, as Yorozu looks down and she notices that Sukuna has already slashed her. Yorozu then falls to the floor dying, with her final thoughts being, like I thought, with a heart-wrenching cut. I'm telling you, man, Yorozu, she's so down bad. Anyways, cut back to present day, and we see that Yorozu has used her liquid metal to construct a perfect sphere. Yorozu then goes to tell Sukuna that she's made a perfect sphere that's impossible to grasp, and she wonders if he can handle it. She then activates her domain expansion. Wow, okay, so we finally get the history between Yorozu and Sukuna, and I'm just going to be the one to put it out there that it is a lot different than I expected. But what's more interesting than that is this perfect sphere. So to give you a little bit of an idea about this, it says that it is impossible to create a perfect sphere. Such objects have an infinitely small point of care, is that a true sphere doesn't exist. Therefore, hypothetically, if a true sphere was to exist, it would have infinite pressure along its surface, basically meaning that instead of having this one point with infinite pressure, the sphere itself becomes that point, basically meaning that anything it touches has an infinite amount of pressure exerted onto it, which means that it vaporizes anything it touches. Hopefully that kind of clears it up for anyone that really wasn't understanding what the sphere was about. But yeah, if you understand it, then you understand that this technique is completely broken. Like the fact that it just completely destroys anything it touches, and you combine that with a domain expansion. I mean, say what you want about Yorozu, at the end of the day, she is a top 5 sorcerer. Like this is exactly what they mean when they say that the Heian era sorcerers are like way stronger. The domain expansions were way stronger. But anyways, back to the chapter. Dialogue, as she says, "You saw it, didn't you? In this domain, that perfect sphere is guaranteed to hit. If I initiate my technique, you'll vanish." Sukuna then tosses the wheel into a shadow, summoning Maharага, which we then see come out of the shadow and destroys the perfect sphere, quickly moving on to slash Yorozu. Alright, so we do get Maharага, which I know a lot of us expected, but what I didn't expect was Yorozu's perfect sphere getting destroyed. I didn't really expect that, but it does get explained later on in the chapter as to why that happens. I think one thing that's important to note is that Sukuna has control over Maharага, and this was another thing we weren't sure of, right? Like we didn't know whether or not Sukuna had control over Maharага just because he had, you know, destroyed Mahoraga back in Shibuya. We didn't really know whether or not the ritual was complete or not. So besides the one Shikigami we haven't seen yet, it's safe to say that Sukuna has complete control over the team. That Yorozu's domain expansion is crumbling away, we see Sukuna looking down on a beaten Yorozu. He then says, techniques like yours with poor cursed energy efficiency always tend to end up as one-trick ponies. When push come to shove, you'll always fall back to what you're used to. It'll either be the liquid metal or your insect armor. Ending with, but I've already adapted to them. Okay, so for those of you who are confused on this, from the moment Sukuna has summoned the wheel itself has been adapting to Yorozu's liquid metal. And since the perfect sphere was made out of Yorozu's liquid metal, Mahoraga was able to adapt to it. Think of it as Sukuna being able to use Mahoraga's abilities without actually summoning Mahoraga itself, which again is pretty OP. But moving on, Yorozu then says to Sukuna, wow, I didn't realize you knew me so well. Yorozu then seems to give something to Sukuna, saying think of it as me and always cherish it, as she passes away due to her injuries. We then see Megumi laying down in an abyss. You see tears coming down his face as the author note reads, after taking his sister Sumiki's life, Fushiguro's soul sinks into the abyss. End of chapter. Okay, so what an ending. Sukuna is completely broken. Like, honestly, I don't really know how anyone can stop him at this point. They would have to completely jump him if they want to stand any chance against him. Also, looking like we probably won't be seeing much of Megumi anymore. Things seem to just keep getting worse and worse. Like, we don't know what we're gonna do with Sukuna. We don't know where the hell Yuta is. We honestly don't even know what Yorozu gave Sukuna at the end there. So yeah, hopefully things start turning around for our characters here, because they've been beaten down for what seems like, I'll just say, a really long time, and to be honest, things don't seem to be getting any better. So yeah, let me know what you think of the chapter. I'd say it was an 8 out of 10, but I know there's a lot of people that didn't like Yorozu's character and all that, so I can understand why people maybe didn't like it as much. I mean, yeah, she was a plot device, but you know, it is what it is. If you guys enjoyed the review, I would really appreciate a like, and if you like JJK content, subscribe. With that, I'm out. Peace.